Welcome to the Resistance Broadcast, everybody. I'm John. Thank you for joining us today. It is Monday. It's our new show. We're going to get into stuff in a little bit. James and Lacey, how's it going, guys? Are you fresh off the weekend, fresh off the Emmys? I don't watch award shows. You guys watch award shows?
I
do.
Do you? You do?
Yeah.
Are you a big award show person?
No, but I watch them.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I always feel like I feel almost obligated to watch them sometimes, especially if, you hop on a social media and that's in that bubble. That's what everyone's talking about, and you want to just kind of find out what's going on. But something about award shows is just, I don't know if pretentious is the word to me, but I like the older I get, the less I care about who wins. Like, is it a thing where fans feel validated in their fandom of something if it wins? Is that, I don't know.
I think you just want to see your favorite people get recognized for their work.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting to me to see what the industry sees as the top choices in their movies and stuff.
Yeah.
Fair.
I don't follow anything other than like Oscars, Academy Awards, like Emmys. I understand that's basically the same thing, but for TV. And in today's age, they're kind of blurring together.
Yeah.
But the reason I watch the Academy Awards is I want to be aware, even if I don't see the movies, like I want to be aware that those are the movies that were considered. These are the people that were considered. It's kind of one of those things like, I don't know, like when you're having that everyday conversation and people are like, oh, that person. And you're like, well, is up for best, actor last year or whatever, you can kind of just play the field a little bit, but I just don't follow like any TV or music. Like Grammys to me is just a huge joke.
Yeah, I think a lot of people understand that a lot of these award shows are very political in terms of, who you are. Like George Lucas was an outsider, so he was never going to win any Oscars because he was not a part of the Hollywood inside crew. He kind of did his own thing and almost rebelled against the Directors Guild. So stuff like that. And Scorsese, like that guy didn't win till like Departed. That's insane. You know what I mean? But I get the allure of the award shows. I think it's maybe like the speeches and stuff, and I don't know all that stuff. But anyway, one movie that should have won Best Picture is Solo: A Star Wars Story. I think we could all agree the best movie of 2018.
We cannot agree.
Without question.
What did it lose to for visual effects again?
It had to have been Avengers, probably.
It wasn't Avengers. It was something else, because I remember being like, you picked that over the gigantic space battles that they had to build from scratch. I was like really offended, whoever won.
Well, I only said Avengers because we all know that Infinity War came out a month before Solo. And
was it 1917 or was that last year?
That was last year. I just don't know what would have beaten Avengers at special effects in 2018.
Maybe it was Lion King. It might have been Lion King.
Could have been Lion King.
Blade Runner 2049.
For visual
effects? I thought that won for cinematography.
No. Academy Award winner for Best Visual Effects 2018, right?
Well, the Oscars were in 2019 to acknowledge the 2018 movies.
Yeah, so it would be 2019 pick.
Yeah.
First Man.
That's what it was.
First Man?
I was so mad.
That movie is so overrated.
Because the clip they even played, like, in the segment of visual effects was the Millennium Falcon, like, dodging TIE fighters and going through the maelstrom, and I was like, so you picked I was so annoyed.
Han Solo is way better, way more of a hero than Neil Armstrong ever was, in my opinion.
Well, if I remember this correctly, usually with the Academy Awards, what they try to do is they try to do like achievement. So it's like if you can watch a movie and you know how they did every one of the visual special effects, like then they didn't really achieve anything. They just did it again. And I think the thing with First Man was that they used a lot of like the way that they did the visual effects, like pushed visual effects forward. If I remember correctly.
I'm calling shenanigans.
it's been a long, like Star Wars doesn't win Oscars even in.
I know they never pick it.
Yeah,
they never pick it.
They always get nominated, but they don't win. They're like Susan Lucci in a way. But
that was a good callback.
Thank you. Solo should have won Best Picture. I will die in that hill, and I don't care what you say. Okay. But we want you to, and I pretty much did this as a segue for this, which is we want you to join us this Friday, September 25th at 8:45 East, US East, for a Solo: A Star Wars Story live watch-along party. Watch with us on Disney Plus while hanging out with us on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Star Wars Newsnet videos. We're going to be doing a live commentary, and we want everyone to be in the live chat, lighting that up, sharing your love for Solo and the Make Solo 2 Happen movement. We're also going to be reading your comments about the movie during our commentary via the Super Chat, so you can use that option to get your comments actually involved in our commentary of the movie. Typically, these commentaries we do just for Patreon, but with Solo, we're the Solo carriers of the torch, so we wanted to make a big, fun public event for everybody on this one. So that's how you'll get involved with the commentary itself. And what else do I have here? I mean, it's so that day, this Friday, is going to be the 2-year anniversary that Solo hit home video. And sadly, it's also the 2-year anniversary of Make Solo 2 Happen. And I say sadly because that means they haven't done it yet. But the good news is that we are selling our brand new, finally, everyone's been asking for them for a couple years now, Make Solo 2 Happen enamel pins are going to be available on sale starting Friday for $12. And we are also bringing back the red variant Make Solo 2 Happen shirt, and all of our Make Solo 2 Happen gear, including the classic t-shirt and anything else on our Teespring store, will be on sale that night as well. So spread the word, and most importantly, spread the word and be there. Friday night, 8:45, youtube.com/Star Wars Newsnet videos. And if you can't make it, I know a bunch of people already told us they won't be able to make it. Don't worry, the commentary is going to live there forever. And also for our patrons, and the audio version is going to be there for you on the website to use whenever you'd like. So if you want to watch Solo and you're like, you know what, I want to watch it with TRB, there you go. It'll be there for you guys. So we hope everyone is able to join us Friday, again, 8:45 on the YouTube channel, live commentary, and be there watching the movie. I'll be right there looking like this, and then you'll be hanging out with us on the YouTube channel, and we'll chat it up, and we'll have a great time celebrating Solo, because that's what it's all about. You guys pumped about this or what?
Yeah, absolutely. I love Solo. I found it interesting, by the way. This past week, every once in a while, there's like trends that go around on Twitter of like your favorite movie that made you cry or something like that. The most recent one was like 4 movies that you love more than anyone else, or you think you love more than anyone else, pretty sure. And so, you know, I love Solo, but I wouldn't say I love it more than anyone else because John exists. So I couldn't put that because I was like, well, then I'm just straight up lying. But I was very surprised by how many people put Solo in their 4.
Did they really?
So many people put Solo on there. And I was like, oh, word?
Wow.
Well, looky. Maybe you should join us. Yeah. So if you are one of those people, you better be watching along with us. Otherwise, you don't love Solo as much as you say you do.
Yeah. So James, we in terms of the merch and stuff, I know you handle that end of things for us. What are we talking? Are we doing 10% off Friday?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the general thing. Nice.
And it's just cool that the red shirt's coming back for some people.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm excited for that one because I know we sold some on the Make Solo 2 Happen Day, and I was really excited for anybody who got one because before we did it, I ordered my own, and I love that hoodie. Yeah, it's like my favorite.
Do you like it better than your one in the world yellow one, gold one?
I do. Yeah, I actually do.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So if you guys have any questions, hit us up on Twitter at RBATSWNN. You know how to find us on our personal accounts too, but just make sure you spread the word because a lot of people may not be dialed into the podcast, but they may love Solo. So if they just want to hop on and do a fan watch along, almost like a celebration type of deal, it's going to be a really good time. So tell your friends, bring them along. It's free right there on the YouTube channel, Friday night, 8:45 East. It's going to be a blast. But now we're going to get into the Resistance Report, go over the latest in news, give our takes, because you don't come to podcasts to learn the news. You come to podcast for the takes, the personalities, the bravado. And James is going to take us...
I don't know about that last
I don't
one.
know either. James, you're going to take us through these, though. What's up, man?
It's the resistance.
Well, we have the Emmy Awards. That's how we even got on the topic in the first place. And the Emmy Awards were last week, and they have won 5. The Mandalorian won 5 technical Emmys. There's kind of like 2 segments to the Emmys. So right now we're on the technical segment. And those particular Emmys were Outstanding Production Design for a Narrative Program, Outstanding Sound Editing for a Comedy or Drama Series, and animation is included. Outstanding Sound Mixing for a Comedy, Drama, or Animation. Outstanding Cinematography for a Single Camera Series. And then the last one being Outstanding Special Visual Effects, which, again, going back to what we were saying earlier, I think that pops in with, you kind of thought they were going to win special effects because they...
Yeah.
Outstanding achievement, like are the clear front runner as far as like pushing tech in this particular day for special effects and things like that. So 5 Emmys under its belt, along with all the other nominations that it got. Mandalorian is doing well right now.
Yeah.
Lacey, what did you think of the wins here?
It's not surprising. It's something they deserved 110%. They've pushed the boundaries of visual effects and just like filmmaking for television, and potentially movies from what we're learning with Thor. So that there was no one even close, I think, this year that could have been like, yes, bring in Big Bang Theory, like get out of here. There's nothing else that could have beat them in anything, I think, especially with visual effects. So I'm just like really happy for that team because I can only imagine the amount of work that went into it and the stuff we learned from the gallery series about how much they just loved the process of learning and tweaking and figuring out what works, and how Jon Favreau has said that going into season 2, they're even more excited of what they're capable of doing. It's not surprising at all that they won all these awards. And I'm so glad that they cleaned up because that's just awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at like outstanding production design with all the different alien species and things like that.
Right.
Yeah,
And sound with Matthew Wood, like he's the best of the best. He deserves all the awards.
He is. Yes. He is.
John, thoughts?
Well, I'll echo what Lacey said. You know, it's not surprising that they won because you can't spell The Mandalorian without M-E, James. It's just a fact.
Bringing it over from Twitter. Well done.
The letter M-E. Emmy. That's how you do that. Put that together. Yeah, so it was, in all seriousness, like seeing like Hal Hickel, Matthew Wood,
There's no E in Mandalorian.
The Mandalorian.
Oh, you're counting the? All right.
What's the show called?
All good. Keep going.
The Mandalorian. No, seeing Hal Hickel, Rob Bordeaux, Matthew Wood, and all them tweeting their satisfaction for them personally. Obviously, it's a lot of effort, and a lot of people don't see that the duck's feet under the water. They see the final product. So I think that's cool. And Star Wars winning Emmys is a new thing, of course, because here they are doing television, so to speak, for lack of a better word. I think it's great. And one thing that stands out to me is the outstanding cinematography for a single camera series was for Chapter 7, and that is Deborah Chow. And she's going to be doing Kenobi, so all good signs there for her. And a lot, I was interested to see that a lot went to Chapter 1, which was Filoni, and Chapter 2, which was Rick Famuyiwa. And I don't know if that's because they submit certain chapters for consideration. I'm not sure how that operates, but...
that's very confusing to me because it's like, oh man, this whole show had all the same visual effects. So like...
Yeah.
Well, Chapter 2 with the sound was like they had the mud horn, they had the Jawas, they had all the blasters and everything, and the blur.
Yeah, I guess I just think of it as like when you think of like a season of a show, I feel like that should be like the movie. Then like wherever it was in that show, like
it's crazy because they have to select an episode from that season. So imagine like you pick the wrong one and then you don't win anything, and you're like, we should have submitted 4 and not 3.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, I mean, it's good. I mean, and again, breaking the fourth wall, we recorded this before the Emmys last night for the main awards, so we don't know if they took home awards for acting or anything like that. But we'll touch more on that next week. But all in all, it's it's good stuff, and it's a win, whether you like her or not. It's a win for Kathleen Kennedy, because you can't say she worked on things that you didn't like, and then say she didn't work on things that you liked. She's the head honcho, so she deserves all the respect in the world for this, because she made this show happen, and of course Favreau and all down the line. So good stuff.
Well, there's other Mandalorian news. Obviously, the season 2 trailer dropped. Yeah. Now, the reason we didn't make this like the boom bang headline story of the week is because we have already done a trailer reaction and kind of discussion breakdown on our channel already. So if you guys haven't seen that, you can go and check that out now and actually see us. At least me and Lacey. John had to watch it one time at least for the website, but us, we were watching it for the very first time. So it was crazy reactions.
Me too, though. You guys are way more observant than me. And you guys have better reactions than I do. Like when I watch a trailer for the first time, it is Forrest Gump sitting on the bench. Just yeah.
So go check out Forrest Gump sitting on the bench. No, no, but we already kind of did that, but we did want to talk a little bit about the fact that it's here on the official podcast. The official trailer's here and the poster as well, which as soon as I saw the poster, I was like, I'm buying that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was like made available to purchase, but I found a way to purchase it, and I was hoping that it would be here, but it's not here yet. So maybe next week. But I actually bought the Japanese version too, because I don't know, something about
typography is so cool.
The typography, I know, it's just like something about it makes it seem like it's deeper or cooler. Like you're more cultured or aware of it, but it really is just like a design thing. It just looks
more
so good.
Artistic.
I guess so, yeah. So what have we learned anything new, John or Lacey, since we've talked about the trailer on our first initial watch? What are your thoughts?
Go ahead,
Lacey.
John.
Oh,
John.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Mister, I've watched it how many times now?
not as many as most people. Like honestly, like not.
You say 9 as many as most people?
No, but I don't watch trailers a ton. That's not like my thing. Like, and the frame by frame stuff. Like I had to edit or proofread our Star Wars Newsnet breakdown. I didn't write it though, but because someone else did, I absorbed that info because I'm going through line by line and proofreading. But
yeah,
so other people did a good job observing the trailer.
That's right, observing.
Yeah, I think I like the tone, the color tones, these blue and these dark blue things that are going on with season 2, as opposed to the sepia, sandy tones of season 1.
Yeah. I like that.
I also just feel like this season looks like it's going to have richer environments, whereas the landscapes for season 1 were very wide open and horizon based. I feel like this one's going to be a lot of nooks and crannies, and I like that type of setting in stories, especially in Star Wars. I think that's why I like stuff like Empire Strikes Back, where you're always like hiding and you're somewhere and you're underneath and you're, I don't know. I love that type of stuff. But in terms of what I learned, I don't know. Like Thursday, we're obviously going to get into a discussion about Star Wars trailers and the whole mystique about them. But I think my biggest takeaway here is that I feel like Baby Yoda is going to be a little more grown up now and being a little more active. And clearly by that funniest shot of him shutting his pod, he's going to be more with it and involved. And I'm just curious how far they take it. So that intrigues there for me. And the other thing in terms of intrigue for me is who else is coming in here. They put a lot of focus on the Mandalorian and the child in this trailer. We got glimpses of other people like the Sasha Banks mysterious character in the hood, and I've heard people say things as crazy as she's a Knight of Ren to she's an Inquisitor, and who knows. But
Kermit the Frog.
I like That's a good one, actually. I like the fact that they didn't give us too much, and it has me asking more questions than when I came in. For some reason, I like that.
One thing I noticed that I didn't notice during the whole reaction is some of the lines were just ripped straight from the season 1, and I was like, man, it took me a while to like realize that, and I went back and watched those scenes in the show, and I'm like, I kind of need to rewatch The Mandalorian. I forgot a lot about this stuff.
Yeah.
I remember just a little bit ago I was asking about the mud horn thing. I was like, is that new or is that old? And it's like, yeah, she makes that and stitches it on him and says you're part of your signet now and all this, and you're a clan of 2 and all this stuff. And I was like, dude, I need to rewatch this because we unfortunately do the Mando fan show.
Unfortunately.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, because we do it, it means that we watch it really early. It's like, okay, it's 4, alarm was snooze off, and you're like, and it's like you hear that Disney logo, that Disney Plus logo, to me just immediately takes me back to it being still dark outside, and I'm trying to get the episode of Mandalorian or Clone Wars to start. You know, so yeah, I don't know. Lacey, anything to add that wasn't in the reaction trailer?
Not necessarily. I seem pretty boring on this topic, but it's because I've watched it so many times that I'm not sure what I said when I initially watched it compared to now. I think this season has an overall tone of being way more serious than the first season. Now, I understand that I'm saying that when the first season trailer started with stormtrooper heads on spikes, but it just seems more serious from the color tones and the music tones and just the character lines that they chose, and like a lot of like staring compared to the first trailer, as in for trailer for season 1. But I also think there's going to be a lot more action this time. Like there's a lot more flying around and jetpacks and X-Wings and all such stuff, which gets me super excited. But overall, I'm just like really pumped to be excited for Star Wars again and for that buildup of something's coming. I've missed it a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I am hoping if there's a low point to The Mandalorian, one of those episodes started with like some sort of dogfight or something, and I was like, this is a weak dogfight, man. It just feels like it's like a ship moving this way,
chapter 5
moving this way.
Yeah, gunslinger.
Yeah, and it just I want to see something, a little bit more, a couple more ships, a little bit wider shot maybe or something. Just something about that seemed like a little too close for comfort. And seeing the Razor Crest with the X-Wings is something that like I'm like, yes, that starts to make a little bit more sense. That feels a little bit more Star Wars, and I'm hoping that maybe some of the series actually takes place a little bit more like in space and flying around in the ships. Give me a little bit more of that. Like we all love Star Wars for the stories and the characters and things, but I think we all think about Star Wars sometimes as like the Battle of Scarif or the Battle of Endor. You know what I mean? These like big starship space battles and stuff, and it's like, I think Mandalorian right now is slightly lacking in that, but when I see X-Wings flying around, I'm like, this could be cool. They could go that route as well. So I don't know. That gave me a little hope, and I know I didn't really say that in the first thing. And I just thought of it later.
Well, yeah, one thing that I know I didn't bring up last time is the fact that, we are missing characters that we grew affections for that died in season 1, like Queel, aka Ugnulty, as we call him on the pod. And whoever runs the Ugnulty Twitter account wrote like an RIP to themselves. But and then IG-11. So they obviously need to introduce new supporting characters in this season now. Is it going to be the familiar faces that we've heard rumor about, or are we going to get some new people, fresh faces? Is that Sasha Banks one of them? Because I feel like that's one of those things where, it looks like a dark, evil person, but she's going to wind up being like a good person on their side, or I'm here to help you out.
I didn't get evil from her. at all.
It's just the dark hood, and it's
I
the
got
ominous.
I'm watching you trying to figure out the situation vibe. I didn't get the I'm going to attack you vibe.
You know, it's
I
funny.
agree.
It feels very dang, I can't think of her name right now, but the characters Bo-Katan and I can't think of her name. I don't know. Sabine's mom in the Clone Wars, and they were watching Ahsoka, and they had the hoods up, and they were like watching, and then they would something would move in, they disappear, and all that other stuff. Like it feels very Clone Wars season 7 vibe coming off of that. I mean, maybe we find out more that's Ursa Wren is who I was thinking of. Yeah, but maybe it's those characters are associated with those characters.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't think she gives off an evil thing, but they're trying to present it in this ominous way, where it's like, who's this?
I'm excited for that character. That's my number one character, and I haven't even seen anything except her standing there.
Your number one?
I'm like obsessed with that character. I think it's so cool already.
I mean,
Really?
I have my
Yeah.
reservations because she's never acted before.
No, I think she looks great.
but looks great, sure.
Well, she's just standing there.
Yeah.
But I've never seen her anything. I've never seen a clip from a show.
You'd have to watch wrestling. That's all
She's one of the
No, I
best,
know, that's
if
what I'm
not
saying,
the
but, like,
best
I think-
female wrestler right now. So
I don't watch wrestling, but I've seen John Cena, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like wrestle or whatever. I've seen clips and things. I'm aware of like his presence. I don't know anything
That's
about
what I found so funny. Like I tweeted, and I was careful about how I tweeted. I said, Sasha Banks has never has 0 acting credits, but I trust Favreau in the process, and I think they'll pull it off and do it right. And people are like, oh, she's such a great actor, and wrestlers are great actors. I'm like, I'm not saying wrestlers aren't good at what they do, but acting and wrestling is 100 times different, and you need to do a lot less in terms of being a good actor than an actual actor on TV and film.
I would argue that
Yeah.
it's changed as of the
I-
past, I would say 10 years.
I agree, but it's still wrestling, and I've watched it, and I would never give someone who in wrestling a Golden Globe for their performance in wrestling.
I mean, what we're really talking about here is we're talking about maybe 3 people that generally people are like okay with that have made that transition. Probably The Rock, John Cena, and then probably
Even John Cena's
big
not
guy
a
from
good
Blade
actor,
Runner.
in my opinion. But
I know, but I'm saying like I think arguably like you could see him in comedies and stuff. You're like, yeah, his transition.
And I'm
Is
saying
fine.
like she's probably gonna do a great job, but all I said was she's never
Bautista,
acted
that's what I
before,
was
so you
thinking.
have to be a
Bautista.
little curious as how it's gonna go. That's
Sure.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Positive spin.
Okay. But speaking of giant Star Wars space battles, right?
Oh yeah.
We actually did kind of get something similar to this. And right now, Star Wars Reddit, the R Empire did nothing wrong, is going crazy right now.
Is that
because
a,
we
is
got
that a
this
thread on there? There's a thread about like from the Empire's.
No,
point
not a
of view.
thread. It's its own subreddit of like people
Oh,
that
wow.
Yeah,
support
it's its own
Empire
board,
stuff.
yeah.
That's
Empire did nothing wrong. But Star Wars Squadrons released this 6-minute CG short about. I mean, it was for promotion for the game, but in essence, you're when you're playing the game, you're either going to play on the Alliance side or you're going to play on the Empire side, and they have to kind of make those sides equal for story purposes for you to feel invested on the dark side, if you will. And so they released this thing, and it's from the Empire's point of view, and it's this character who says the fight's not over, not for me. And I think generally this was pretty well accepted. I don't know what did you guys think, Lacey? You start with this. You watched it, I assume.
Yeah, I loved this, honestly. I thought it was so great. And I'm going to admit that probably in the past year, we've had some will of the Force at some point that was like, will we ever see something from the bad guys' perspective? And I was like, no, why would they do that? It's Star Wars. The good guys are the good guys. I loved this, and I wish it was longer than 6 minutes. Like, I wanted a full movie from this perspective of Gray is the character's name. I believe. Yeah. And, from the beginning when the whole battle's happening, it's so epic. And then, the ship leaves without him and you're like, oh gosh, what's going to happen? And then he's like hiding from the X-Wing. And for once I felt super guilty because as I'm watching this, I was like really mad at the rebels. I was like, why are you hunting this guy? He's already down. Like what? Because you picture them as kind of this group that's fighting for what's right. And it kind of goes into The Last Jedi of like, who's really right? Who's really on what? Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy type of thing. But with this short in particular, like I never have had such a reaction of like, wow, this X-Wing fighter guy really sucks. And like I thought that the whole time, and I was like, the only part that I felt upset about what was happening to the X-Wing fighter is when they shot the R2 unit. And I was like, no, the R2 unit didn't do anything. But no, I think my favorite part is at the end when he basically is flying through a ship with no glass and like it's falling apart, and he uses the water to create a wall that then the X-Wing hits the rock because he goes through the, like, it's such a cool moment. And the character reminded me a lot of Poe Dameron in The Last Jedi, where he's kind of going against his leader to fight the bad guys, which are the good guys. Or are they? And then like the moves he pulls where he swings it around really quick and stuff like that. And he kind of has that like cockiness, yet I can do this attitude. It reminded me of Poe a lot. But yeah, I've never rooted for a bad guy so much before, except like Vader in Rogue One. But it was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. I loved the Vader scene in Rogue One. I know
you love the Vader scene, but you weren't sitting there thinking like, oh my God, those guys, they just stole that property.
No, I was thinking, get them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but not because they're bad guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was still rooting for Vader to kill him.
Yeah,
I was too, but it's like,
yeah.
you're rooting for him, but you're like, but don't get to Leia. That's it.
Right, which you knew, but you knew that he wasn't going to.
Right, yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're excited to see carnage, but at the same time, you're not necessarily like what you're saying about this particular pilot, like for the first time you felt like the rebels were the one who were hunting down these people, these innocent people, in a way.
I don't know about innocent, but I was just on his side.
Well, he was unarmed. He was like already going down.
Right. The way I see it is like, why would you kick someone when they're already down? Like he's already.
Yeah. I agree.
And I get that's part of war is like, you got to eliminate the enemy, but at this point he's like on his own anyway. So.
So I agree with what you're saying, Lacey, because I felt the same way. I was like, wow, I almost see their point of view here. But it's funny how they do that, because if you look at throughout the history of Star Wars and you look at TIE fighter pilots, they're faceless because you always see them in their helmets and in their masks, and they never have dialogue. They're always just this voiceless, faceless pod in a ship, and you don't care about them, and all you see them as are mercenaries or soldiers. You see that through other movies too, like I know you guys joke about Top Gun and stuff, but in Top Gun, like the bogies and the Russian pilots, the MiGs or whatever, are all under black shields and they have no dialogue. Yeah. Your goal is to see them as not human. And in this game, they humanize the TIE fighter pilot. His mask shatters, he takes it off. You're like, wow, that's a human being. And then on the flip side, they show you the X-Wing pilots and they don't give them any dialogue. He's now the faceless, voiceless one, and they flip it on you that way.
I don't think you see his eyes either. I think he has like a thing down.
Yeah, it's completely down. So all you see is his mouth, and they dehumanize the X-Wing pilots, and that's definitely a deliberate choice, and it's subtle, but it's there, and it kind of sways you a little bit without realizing it. So I thought that was interesting. And then my favorite part was at the end where he's kind of just like, he's like toast, but then he like re-engages by putting his busted up helmet back on, and he's like, I'm still in this. And the visuals of it were fantastic. Like a lot of people said, because this isn't just me coming up with this idea, a lot of people said they would love to just see a full movie out of this type of thing, and I don't disagree. I think
this would be so good as a
it'd
full
be
movie.
very expensive, but I think it'd be really awesome, and I'd be totally down with that type of Star Wars storytelling, maybe more so than standard animation or the current animation they're doing. But either way, I think I don't know that I'm going to buy a system at this point. I know people are going crazy about the PS5 and I assume this is going to be on PS5 and whatever the latest Xbox is, or whatever the latest consoles are.
I think it's PS4 as well. I could be wrong
Yeah.
because it's for PlayStation VR, which is already built for
I don't know that I'm
PlayStation 4.
going to play it, but I'm going to watch the story mode. I'm vested in the story because it's interesting and it's unique, and it's taking an era that we know really well that's been beaten to a pulp, and it makes it still feel kind of fresh. And I'm really excited for Star Wars fans who are big gamers, because everyone seems to be down with this. And that's something we have to be happy about, because that's hard to find.
Always mark as a win.
Yeah, that's a win. That's a win. And I hope when it comes out, it delivers, because a lot of people were excited about Battlefront, and that didn't go so well for people. So I don't know. I'm interested, to say the least. I don't know that I'm going to get into gaming, but I really dig what went on here, and that whole narrative flip that they did with the visualization and lack of dialogue and reversals is very cool.
Yeah, it's Star Wars is weird to me because, like, obviously I loved all this, and I think that this stuff was really cool. I think the hyper realism was what maybe won people over on the animation side of it. Like, generally they're looking at, like, you know, Ezra or something, and they're like, yeah, it looks like a cartoon. But, like, all of a sudden now when you're, like, seeing someone like that, it feels a little bit more like live action.
That's a good
so connection with it.
Do you mean by that, like, how Ezra almost looks like, it's like when they make a human version of The Simpsons, you're like, geez, that's weird looking, because they just take the proportions and just make it human. Ezra would look weird if they did that, if they just tried to make it look like a real human being. This guy looks like an actual, like, proportionately a human face. Is that what you mean?
I think you're right, and I think they have done human versions. I mean, even in this game, we see Hera as, you know, realistic or like human character version. Right. And it seems fine. You're like, oh wow, that's crazy. That's her. But I feel like as soon as you start to make like a lot of those characters and you make the action, and it all kind of looks, I mean, it doesn't look hyper real, but it's like way closer to real than, you know, other like Star Wars Clone Wars. You know, obviously that's like an art style, and it kind of looks more cartoony than real. The one weird thing I will say is I think generally people do side with the rebellion, the Alliance to Restore the Republic, because of how the Empire treats the soldiers. And anytime we ever try to see these stories from the soldiers' point of views, they really kind of break their own story a little bit. So some, like, for instance, like you take, I don't know, like, man, Callus from Rebels, you know what I mean? Like, part of his thing was when he was started to do like really well or whatever, like nobody really cared about him. Like when he was lost, he knew no one was coming for him. This actually happens quite a lot in, like, say, like Lost Stars, for instance, like Sienna Rhee. She has these like issues with the way that they treat their pilots and how they're just like nameless, faceless. You're not supposed to, actually in Alphabet Squadron as well, famously, like it just, they don't care about their pilots. So when he crashes and then they're like, it shows like these other pilots coming and like looking for him, that's something the rebels would do. That's something the good guys would do. They go looking for their people. Yeah. But it's uncharacteristic of the Empire. And in fact, that was a big portion of Solo in the backstory to that character. He was in the academy, somebody was hurt, he went out of his way to save that person, and he got reprimanded and kicked out of it. Now it's all deleted scene, right? But they were like, you don't go and find other people, right? That's not what we do in the Empire. And he's like, that sucks, I don't agree with that. So he like abandoned. So sometimes when I see these stories where they're trying to build up like, oh, the Empire, they're people too, and they're just trying to like their day-to-day and stuff, it's like, no, I think what we've been taught is that the Empire like brainwashes these people and they abandon each other and they're all out for themselves and other stuff like that. So I don't know. I think for the point of the game, in order to have a left and a right like team thing, yeah, it makes sense. But sometimes I feel like the story is a little like, well, they better explain why this particular battalion or something is different, you know? But yeah, I don't know. Just that's a little bit of thing for me sometimes when people get like Empire on the side of the Empire. I feel like it's a little bit like, but that's why they're the bad guys.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's in jest, though. I think it's like when in The Office,
Sure.
when everyone was saying that prison wasn't that bad just to get under Michael's skin. It was like, obviously, the Empire is bad. We all get that. It's just, it's fun to flip sides.
Yeah. A couple other things that happened this week, though. Another thing related to video games is that Anthony Daniels officially announced that he was returning to voice the character C-3PO in the Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge VR game experience. So the kind of something that we had already knew was going to happen, but they kind of boosted up the star power of it by bringing in one of the live action, original trilogy characters to come in and be another one of these characters. And they put out a new trailer for it. Still looks cool. Lots of C-3PO in the trailer, obviously, to showcase him. But
I wonder what he gets. What do you think he gets paid for this type of gig?
Depends
I don't know.
how much
I need
work
to know
he
what
did.
he get. Yeah. Also, I mean, depends on how much he gets paid for other jobs too.
No, I know. I'm just
what I mean? Yeah.
I'm always wondering. I mean, it's not the biggest portion of this, but it's always good when the legacy actors can come back, though. Like it's one of those things where they know when they put this out, no one's gonna be like, oh, enough with that guy. No one's saying that.
It was interesting to hear him say he was like a resistance fighter. I was like, oh, word.
Or a spy.
Yeah.
I found that to be a little strange too. Yeah. But I'm still curious. So is this one of those things where he is going to be like the person in the game who helps you like, all right, now we got to,
probably.
steers you in the direction you got to go? Oh,
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah. Looks like it.
Because I don't want C-3PO to abandon like his neuroses and like because him saying he's a resistance spy is a little strange to me because he's such a neurotic, scared little
Well,
butler.
then they have the next shot is like him with the Salacious Crumb character.
Was
like,
he?
He was like throwing something and he was like, it wasn't him, but it was like that species,
Quacky,
monkey, whatever.
Monkey lizard.
So like, then you see him being like, like back to normal. So you're
I did like him smacking R2. That was old school.
Oh yeah, he likes to smack R2.
This takes place closer to sequel trilogy time, doesn't it?
But it's all this Galaxy's Edge stuff is between 8 and 9.
Oh, it's between 8 and 9. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. Which they got to figure out what's going on now because now we're post 9. So when we're going to Batu, are we going back in time?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine that they would change things just for that sake. I think that
I feel like they're gonna have to.
Batu takes place in a certain time frame.
Yeah, Kylo Ren's dead at this point.
Once they once they figure out where they're going after episode 9 and maybe they have, God forbid I say it, something mapped out for post episode 9 stories, they may shift Batu to that timeline, but until then they won't make any moves.
I don't know, man. I think they're really happy with like for instance, like what Lacey just said, like Kylo Ren is dead. So if they move out of that, I think they like the idea of the era of like Darth Vader dies at the end of Return of the Jedi. So if you were going to have a park, you'd put it after Return of the Jedi. Like that doesn't make sense. You want to put it
I think Batu
right in between A New Hope and Return of the Jedi, like somewhere in the middle there.
Galaxy's Edge banks on like The Force Awakens. That's literally what Disney's like, hey, remember this $1 billion movie we made? That's basically what the park is.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think it's the sequel trilogy in general.
Sure,
not
but
just
it's
the one
Kylo
movie,
Ren with
but
his mask on, without the
with his
cracks
mask
in
on.
it.
I think there's a couple.
Yeah.
There's a couple things in there, but
Before the dark.
Yeah. Speaking of episode 9, we most people, I would say, that were paying attention to leaks and rumors and other things like that probably came across the big like baby head with the spider. And it was referred to as the Oracle or some type
Webbish
of Oracle character,
Bob.
like a I was going to get to that. Yeah, the coming kind of from like the Matrix or something, like someone who you go to find information. It was famously cut though, never made the movie. We think they may have filmed it. There's some scenes and stuff in the artwork and all that. But in the novelization, the character was realized, and they did put those scenes in there, and we got the name of the character, which is the Eye of Webbish Bog. Well, the Eye of Webbish Bog is actually making his actual, I mean, the books are canon, but like canon
visual
debut here visually, in the Darth Vader comic. We don't know a whole lot other than they just showed the cover, but it's quite interesting to know that Darth Vader, like full-on Darth Vader, is going to be somehow interacting with this character, which we surely know that this character already did because he's got the...
it's interesting if this is more than... If this cover is literal in terms of where this thing is located, the climate certainly shifts on this planet, as we saw in The Rise of Skywalker, but that thing was literally coming out of a swamp and a bog in The Rise of Skywalker, where here it's right in the middle of that lava there. But they definitely filmed the scene at Black Rock in like a lake or pond, and they had it filmed, and Neil Scanlon said it was basically just cut because it wasn't necessary for them to... All it did in the movie was point Kylo Ren to where he has to go to get the stone, and they were just like... It's not necessary. Just have him slide the thing after he kills the people.
I still wanted to see it.
I do too, but I get why they cut it.
This is one of those things that like it makes me mad seeing it on a comic book because it is so Star Warsy when you look at it. Especially not this version, but like the actual version where it's in the water and it's swampy.
I'd love to see the scene. Yeah, don't get me wrong.
It makes me so angry.
Yeah.
I definitely get the idea that all it did was point him to the stone, but I would have rather it like said, "Oh, you know, you're here. You're the one I was waiting for," and it like gives it to him.
Right, or talks about the prophecy or some type of explanation to the rest of the movie. Like, there's so many things they could have done with this character that would have been really cool, and I feel like it's being wasted on Darth Vader. Because I feel like it's something that should have been highlighted in the sequel trilogy, and it's one of those really cool things that like everybody saw glimpses of probably August of last year before The Rise of Skywalker.
Because they made miniatures of it that are in the documentary.
Yeah, and Neil Scanlon talks about it. He's like, oh, we have this thing right here, and there's pictures of him talking about it. And, you know, here on the show, we always joked about, like, baby spider head. Like, it was just, like, one of those things that was really cool. And I feel like it would have been really awesome to see in the movie. So why are we giving it to Darth Vader comic books?
I agree with you. You know what's interesting about this is if you go back to the interviews, I forget who he did them with, but Neil Scanlon did interviews talking about this scene and that they filmed it. He said J.J. Abrams pushed really, really hard for this to go beyond concept and get in the movie. And they did it to the point where they filmed it. And I think this might have been... I don't want to stir any feathers. This could have been like one of those things where Disney's like, this movie is too long. We don't want a 3-hour Star Wars movie. You need to make cuts.
But yeah, Avengers is 17 hours long.
Yeah. But with Star Wars, I guess it's just whatever their approach was, it's different. And whatever didn't absolutely have to be in the film got cut. And this is one of those things. So I think Abrams, by all accounts, according to Neil Scanlon, pushed for this thing. And it's one of those like, it's so hard. I hate that we had to do that. And like you heard Rian Johnson talk about some scenes with Luke, he had to cut in The Last Jedi. I bet it's so much anguish if you're like a filmmaker. Like I did not want to cut that. Like, oh my God, it's not just like screw that. So it's interesting.
I get spicy every once in a while, and this is something that I'm getting spicy about because I feel like we haven't gotten any sequel trilogy content lately. It's like it didn't exist. Disney's just ignoring it. And they're like, okay, but like here's another Darth Vader thing. You guys like Darth Vader, right? And then like, yes, I love The Mandalorian. I am super excited about it. I'm wearing a Baby Yoda shirt. It makes sense. I'm pumped. And I just said that. But like, why are we not getting any content about Rey or Finn or Poe or anybody? Like, it's just like it didn't happen.
Well, the only thing you're getting is the Tales from Galaxy's Edge.
I'm getting the baby head on a Darth Vader comic. Like, why am I not getting a story about that with Kylo Ren and Rey and stuff?
How I don't know this. How far back are comics in production I definitely know that, when they talk about Rebels, they're like, oh, we're 2 years ahead before those episodes air that we start working on them. I'm curious if at one point this particular piece was in conjunction with the movie, and then the scene got cut and they're like, well, we can still do it in the comic, whatever. But like the point was to see it there first and then
who wrote this?
Get payoff later. No, there's no names on the cover. I mean, there might be.
So remember last year, I could be wrong.
Wasn't it Charles Soule did Darth Vader?
Yeah, last year at the
Greg
publishing
Pak?
panel, Lacey, didn't they say Charles Soule was writing more Darth Vader?
Maybe.
Or was it
he
Greg
seems like
Pak?
the only one that's writing them. Yeah.
Was it Charles Soule or Greg Pak?
I don't know. That's
forget.
what I just said. So I don't know. Either one of the.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I actually, I
so
don't really.
If that's the
follow
case, then
artists
maybe
and
it's a
writers and
year, something like that.
stuff. Which then theoretically could make sense. Like I don't know when they cut that scene.
Yeah.
I just want more
we could
stories
probably
with
look
those
up when they
characters.
said like it's wrapped, it's done, it's in the books.
Yeah.
So, if anybody from Lucasfilm is listening, please give us something else.
I think when it comes to, I agree with you, Lacey, and I think all of us like the sequel trilogy. I think their approach now, and who knows with the whole Kathleen Kennedy thing.
I think letting it breathe as a statement is a cop-out.
Who said that?
Kathleen Kennedy said she's letting it breathe.
No, I mean her situation, because the more I think she's on her way out.
Yeah.
So I think that might be a big.
And I know
part of
people
this
are going to
too.
listen to this and be like, "Wow, Lacey sounds so entitled and like a brat." But hey, look, I want more Star Wars, and I'm sick of seeing Darth Vader get 72 comics.
I think we're going to see more Rey stuff in the future, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I don't recognize either one of the names that you guys said on the issues 4 and 5 of this.
Oh,
Who
okay.
are 4 and 5?
For writers.
Greg Pak, you said.
There you
did.
go. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it is. Yeah, Greg Pak.
He's great.
And then, 2 other people.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's who's writing Vader right now.
All right.
And look, I get this is probably a wonderful story. It really is. But I'm like really disappointed that this baby Spiderhead wasn't in the movie.
It also depends on what they do with it. Like, how
Overall,
I
I
feel
wanted
about-
more creatures and stuff in all these movies, and I feel like we didn't get them. We got like a scene with a bunch of stuff in it, and then they're like, here you go. And then we didn't get any toys. We didn't get anything. It was just like, here's a 13th version of Kylo Ren with a cape. And I'm like, okay, but what about all the aliens and creatures and stuff that are like the coolest part?
Because I think they're scared. Like they make the toys. The toys don't sell.
Yeah.
I know people buy the toys, but
What do you mean people
I had
buy
a
the
friend.
toys?
I mean, people do buy the toys, but the thing is like I think the whole world of like merchandising like it we used to think of it back in the day, and also when you think about how many toys and things there are there for the original trilogy, those toys have had years to build up.
Sure.
Like Power of the Force didn't come out when the movie came out; they came out
In the 90s,
years
yeah.
later. Yeah, so it's like we still have years and years and years of sequel trilogy toys to come in the future. Just right now, it feels like they're limited to like just a small amount of stuff, and that's because when they put all that out, they can only sell so much because they are competing with the Marvels and the My Little Ponies or whatever.
I think
is out
also
at
they
the
see
time.
it as like, oh, Baby Yoda is selling like crazy, so let's just make more of that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
What I was going to say about the Vader thing, back to that, it depends on how they handle it in terms of my perspective, because I don't like the mopey Vader stuff. I like dark, full evil Vader. That's his purpose. I don't like this whole he's in his chamber crying and thinking about Padme nonsense.
Watching Golden Girls.
If he's talking to this,
I mean, hate
Oracle,
leads to suffering, John.
yeah. If he's talking
Suffering.
if
Not
he's
being hate leads to happy killing people.
You done? If he's talking to this Oracle and it's like, this is what could have been, and it's like, it's a wonderful life for a Christmas Carol, like this is what your life could have been, I'm gonna toss that comic in the garbage.
But the suffering, John.
Yeah, I'm suffering right now.
Yeah.
Trying to get through these comments. All right, so we got to move along. Let's burn through the last story there, James.
Liam Neeson being praising the Phantom Menace, specifically Ahmed Best. Yeah, he just was doing an interview, and I think this is all led to say, because I saw John's comments on Twitter, that this is a little bit of a setup for him returning in Obi-Wan Kenobi. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's, him dipping his foot back into Star Wars. He hasn't really talked about it at all over the course of 20 years. Aside from like, oh yeah, that was fun to do. It was cool to swing around a lightsaber. But he's digging his foot in a little deeper here and talking about the movie. And it's almost like one of those things like, it's okay to like this now? Okay. All right. So I liked it. And then, of course, praising Ahmed Best, no-brainer there. No one's going to say anything bad about Ahmed Best right now, even if they don't like Ahmed Best. So, and I do. I think he's great. So I think it's a book it for me that Qui-Gon's coming back in the Kenobi series. That makes a ton of sense, especially he was the one. And they set it up where Yoda told him, an old friend has learned how to communicate through the Force, and Obi-Wan said Qui-Gon. So it's set right there on a platter. And I think it's 10-year gap. So I think when we see him, it's not going to be the first time they see each other. It's going to be, here's the next time we're talking. And I think it's going to be a cool scene.
It's funny too, because I definitely think you're right that he's coming back, because he does so many movies and stuff now that I don't think, a TV show or having a cameo in this to return to like one of his bigger known properties.
How many movies about a runaway train can you make before it's like, I'll come back to Star Wars?
And it's funny too, because Ewan McGregor often gets the like highlight of the prequels, but I don't think anybody really was like, oh my God, like Liam Neeson just phoned it in on that one. You know what I mean? I actually think people generally think that he was a really bright part, and the only problem with the Phantom Menace was that he was killed early, which obviously is like, we look at the whole trilogy now and we're like, oh, that's part of the story. But like, or even the bigger Star Wars. But yeah. Well, Lacey, what do you think of Liam Neeson and why he would be talking Phantom Menace specifically now?
I love Liam Neeson. He can't do anything wrong. And I love the Phantom Menace. It's my favorite prequel movie. So I'm loving all the prequel love for the Phantom Menace, because I feel like out of the three, I guess Attack of the Clones gets a lot more garbage than the Phantom Menace. But I love the Phantom Menace. I always have loved the Phantom Menace. I think it's super fun. So I'm excited to see them talking about it and saying how great it is and giving Ahmed Best his time to shine, so to speak, even though he had to go through what he had to go through to get to this point. I don't think he'd probably change anything because he's become who he is today. But it's nice to hear other people acknowledge him. Like Natalie Portman's writing to him on Instagram and stuff. Like, it's just really cute. Yeah. The idea that he'll be in Kenobi is awesome. I hope that happens. It seems like a no-brainer, like John said. But yeah, I think it's great. Super pumped.
Yep. Well, that's everything this week for Resistance Report. Lacey, you want to take us into the next section?
Yeah. So, guys, it's time for the Patreon pod race. So there are a lot of different ways you can support us. You can like, comment, and subscribe on this video on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter at RBATSWNN. You can follow us on Instagram at The Resistance Broadcast. Or if you want more than that, like extra content, mailings, Discord chats, much more, you can head over to patreon.com/Resistance Broadcast. Starting at $2 a month, going up into the tiers, you get more access. And we put so much work into this Patreon page, guys. Like, I know for a fact we put out more content than anybody else, and that's not like a bragging thing. That's just because we love it so much. So before I get started, we want to thank our generals. That's our top tier. So thank you to Carmelo, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, Neil Shaw, David Probus, John Reese, Mike Harrison, Jetta Rosewater, Michael Gaines, Bethany, Russ Harbison, and Kendall Gelnar. Thank you guys so much for your support. It means so much to us. So this segment, as you guys probably know, is where we give our generals a chance to be on the show. So we ask them a question, they give us an answer, and then we react to it. So this week we have General Andrew. Andrew, what's up? And we asked him, knowing Pedro Pascal will be spending more time in the Mandalorian suit for season 2, how much do you think we'll see of Din Djarin with his helmet off this season? So, Andrew, take it away.
I think the time that we see the Mandalorian with his helmet off in season 2 is going to be very limited this year. I know Pedro Pascal has been rumored to be back in the outfit for a more extended period of time, but with the code and this is the way, and the fact that the helmet staying on is such a massive part of being a Mandalorian, I just don't think we'll see the helmet off much unless it's a moment that's going to lend some emotional weight to an episode. Just because the Mando and his look is part of the show and marketing and everything. But I think obviously we will see Pedro Pascal without the helmet on at some point, but it's going to be very, very limited. Thanks a lot, guys. May the Force be with you.
All right, Andrew, great job. Very good job. John, what did you think of his answer?
Logical, very to the point. Yeah, I mean, it's common sense what you're saying, I guess. A lot of good points there, Andrew, in terms of if they do it, it's going to be an emotional, weighted point, just like when he took it off in season 1 at the end there, when he thought he was dying. Yeah, I don't know. I have a feeling we'll see more than we did in season 1. You seem to not think that way, but I agree that his identity is with that helmet on, and the whole "this is the way" and the code, it all makes sense. So you make great points. It's hard for me to argue against it. Other than that, hope you're enjoying the NASCAR playoffs. Looks like by this point, my boy Blaney may have been knocked out, but hope you're. Yeah, I know your boy is retiring and he's not in the playoffs, but I hope you're still enjoying them, and you're doing well, man. Have a beer for me next time you go to that bar, because I miss being able to sit at a bar. So enjoy, buddy.
James?
They're called playoffs? That's weird. They're not called like race-offs or something? I don't know. It seems odd. Yeah, I agree with you, Andrew. Actually, I think you make it even more clear. I was starting to lean in that whole, like, now that they've taken his helmet off, or now that he's more involved in the show and sees its success or whatever, like they could actually kind of show his face. And I'd be still down if they did do that, but your points canonically hold way more truth to what I think they could do just from like a showcase of the actor standpoint. Yeah, I'm down with what you're saying. Like, just because he took off his helmet at the end when he thought he was dying doesn't mean that the code changed. He's gonna leave that thing on, and that's the look of the show. That is the Mandalorian. So yeah, I'm with you 100%. And thanks for the video, and thanks for being a general.
Yeah, Andrew, I completely agree with you. I think on more of a production side, it's a lot easier to manage stunts and different stunt fighters when the helmet's always on, like, because you're not going to know who it is. You probably will by the way people walk and mannerisms and whatnot, but when the helmet's on, you can't argue if something's Pedro or not. So I think that a lot of those fight scenes, he's still going to remain with the helmet on, because then they can switch people in and out and you won't even know. But yeah, I agree with you. Thank you so much for your support. It means so much. You're the best. Hope all is well. And now we're going to hear from the rest of the TRB community in Ask the Resistance. John?
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
That's right. It is time for Ask the Resistance. Thanks for everyone who has sent in questions. You sent a bunch. We only have time for 3 this week, but we'll try to get to more next week. But keep them coming. We really appreciate it. Anytime you want to send a question in, you don't even have to tweet it at us. Just use the hashtag #AskTheResistance and I'll find it. And if it's something I feel like it would lead to a cool discussion on the show, or if it's fun, interesting, makes us think, we'll get it on here. So we appreciate it. Keep those coming. But this week we have Will Beeman at Papa Star Wars. Very interesting. Very interesting handle. Cool handle.
I think Will is the one that had that sweet George Lucas shirt in the virtual canteen.
Oh, is that Will?
I'm pretty sure.
It's a cool shirt. You should stop wearing that shirt, put it in a frame, and then put it on the wall.
Put it in a museum, because it's art.
Yeah. It belongs in a museum. All right, Will. You said, do you think we will see any of the main cast from, we were just talking about these people, the sequels come to Star Wars Celebration Anaheim 2022 for autographs and photos? I mean, Lacey, you're our Celebration expert, so why don't you tackle this one? Do you think those who were instructed not to do them last time, do you think they'll be coming around for some cash in 2022?
I think people love cash. I think money is good. And, no one's ever going to say no to money. I think with the sequel cast in particular, when I worked for Celebration, which was 2015 and 2016, they weren't allowed to come sign stuff from Lucasfilm and Disney. They were blocked from doing that. So I feel like now that their contracts are up, the movies are over, as we've seen with John Boyega, they're more open, Daisy, with their experiences, and Oscar as well. I think if the price is right, I think they'd be more than willing to come sign for a day or two, because even some of, probably I wouldn't say like big A-list people, so like a Paul Rudd, who's great, but I wouldn't say he's like a Robert Downey Jr. He makes $100,000 a day, so like you're not going to say no to that. So it's like, why wouldn't you do it? You know, it really depends.
I found $20 the other day on the ground, and I was like, I'm rich.
Right. Yeah. I mean, some of these people, well, maybe not 100,000. That's a lot, but I mean, some people do make that. But if you're banking like $30,000 a day in autographs and photos just to stand there or sit there and talk to people for 30 seconds, it really depends on what what they're looking to make. Because I know one of the guests that was floating around back in 2017 was Adam Driver, and he was looking for $100,000 for one day. So it really depends what the price tag is. So
yeah,
hopefully.
Must be nice.
I kind of thought you were going to say no on all three of them. Not a chance.
No, I mean,
they don't want to revisit it.
John
They're
Boyega's already
busy.
done autographs. He did autographs for AwesomeCon. So that was kind of a weird loophole where how did he get around that? It was weird.
That was all before GQ article, right?
Yeah, it was, but I honestly don't think any comments that they make right now is going to impact how Disney and Star Wars interacts with them. They're still the heroes of this franchise.
I get that.
And especially his comments, like you can't disregard what he's saying, especially in the current climate of how he feels and how the situation worked out for him. I think it literally just depends on timing, scheduling, and money. But I would assume if any of them was going to do that, it would probably be John Boyega or Daisy. I can't see Oscar doing that, but that's just my own.
And I'd be afraid for Adam Driver if he did it.
I don't think Adam Driver would do it. I think that's why his price tag was so big when it was being floated around, is because he didn't want to do it. So instead of saying no and being the guy that said no, he just threw a big price tag out there. So then people were like, well, we don't have that in our budget.
Yeah, right.
It's like, I signed this for you.
Yeah. Adam Driver's like, I'll do it for $25 million. And they're like, no, we can't do that. He's like, oh, well, I tried, guys.
Yeah, I tried.
Yeah.
All right.
I hope that answered your question, Will. Sorry, there was a little bit of a runaround answer.
No, I mean, Lacey, you got the inside track, so I'm sure people want to hear it for sure. All right. James, Anthony Lamb at Anthony Lamb. Way to get your handle, Anthony. Woo. That's a thing I started saying a long time ago. Way to get your handle. Why have the Mandalorians and other forgotten about the Jedi, even though they were prominent until 30 years ago? Could it be the result of an intentional campaign of disinformation by the Empire? This was like my pitch. I guess my pitch.
I was gonna say that. Yeah.
So yeah, James, what do you think here? Why does it seem? I guess he's going by what was said in the trailer. It almost seems like the Mandalorians like this ancient group of wizards or whatever.
Yeah, the trailer / season 1.
Yeah.
I guess to me, that I think just about everybody has kind of had that question of like, what, it wasn't really that long ago that there were like all these wizards ruling the galaxy. Like what's the thing that's going on? And I have I've kind of come to the conclusion that you're right here. I think there is this kind of like force that the Empire is trying to push on everybody to like shut out those as like stories and stuff. Now, granted, I mean, it's kind of hard to ignore, you know, the fact of the matter that the galaxy was ruled by those people. But I still think even when the galaxy had the Jedi kind of watching over them, I think there was still a little bit of like not really trust in like the religious aspect of it. Like they knew that the Jedi were there and they knew they were religious, but I I think the whole idea of the Force and manipulating things and stuff like that was still kind of always like well, if I can't do it and I've never seen it happen, I gotta imagine that stuff is just fake. And even when the Jedi like would come to a planet and do things like that, I think people were still pretty amazed at their power and really didn't quite understand it. And then when the Empire comes along and says that's because they didn't really have powers, it was a trick, they were crazy, they tried to do everything, I think most people were like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Like, okay. I've never seen anything that made me, believe in an all-powerful Force like Han Solo.
Right.
Not to mention too, like if you think about like when the original trilogy from the prequels time frame happened, it'd be like kind of like that stuff all going down like in the late, like mid 80s, early 90s, like when people of like generally our age were fairly pretty young, and so we don't really remember the Jedi as the Jedi. We kind of remember that to us sounds like, I don't know, like when Roosevelt was president, and like we kind of know the history, but we don't really like remember it or like have remembered being there and experiencing what it was like when the Jedi were there. So I think in all generations across the galaxy, we're pretty well beyond the rule of the Jedi. That was a long answer. I'm sorry, but I all that to get to. I think you're right. I think it was the Empire pushing down the truth of what the Jedi were.
All right, right on. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, James. All right, this last one here. I'll try to tackle this one. This is from Fred Quadros at Fred D. Quadros. What is up, Fred? I'll give you a way to get your handle on that. I'm not sure what the other D is there. Is that your middle name? Fred D. Quadros? Or are you Freddy Quadros? Do you believe Cobb Vanth, the Tatooine sheriff from Aftermath novels, will really feature in Mandalorian Season 2 and the implications of bringing in a book-only character to the screen if it means even more canon synergy? So I'm buying in on this. I know a lot of people more observant than me took to screenshotting, and they're like, I think that's Boba Fett's armor on the back of this jetpack or back of the speeder, and there's a Mando helmet there, and it's on Tatooine, and we saw the Razor Crest flying over a bantha with a Tusken Raider, so that to me is telling us we're going back to Tatooine. I don't think there's going to be another sand planet that has banthas and Tusken Raiders, so I think we've only seen Tusken Raiders on Tatooine as far as I know. So it would make sense to me. I think some pretty solid trades reported that Timothy Oliphant's coming to Mandalorian. I don't think he denied that. I don't think anybody denied that report. So I'm beginning to believe that's true. He's known for doing Western type shows, Justified, and I forget what the other one was. Someone in the comments is going to correct me on
He's
this
also
one,
the mean
Jurassic
boyfriend
Park,
in the girl next door.
Yeah, right. But in terms of that Western style cowboy hat gunslinger type thing, he's known for doing that, and he's a good actor. And I could see him playing Cobb Vanth and doing this role. So I'm buying in. I think so. I don't think they're just going to toss Boba Fett at us here. So maybe this is another one of those side stories that Favreau's talking about, where we follow other people doing other things in this show, and it's not always just going to be focused on the Mandalorian. Favreau really said he likes what Game of Thrones did, where all of a sudden for an episode we're going over here while this character you like is over here. We're going to let them chill for a little bit and go this way, and maybe this is another side adventure we can go on where you have Cobb Vanth and maybe Boba Fett's on his trail, and then you have the Fennec Shan thing involved here. Why did it sound like Boba Fett was approaching her? Maybe it was this guy. So I'm all in on this. I think all signs point to it working. So if that's what you were saying in a way, Fred, then I agree with you. I think maybe we'll see Cobb Vanth make the crossover from book only to live action. I'm on board with it. Let's do it. And who better than Timothy Oliphant to do it? So hope you dug the answer. But yeah, that's it. We had a couple more, but we're up on time, so we're going to cut it there. But keep the questions coming. Use hashtag AskTheResistance. Hit us up on Twitter at RBATSWNN. If you're shy or not a social media person, email us at resistancebroadcast@gmail.com. We're checking that email every day. all of us. So we'll see him and we'll get him involved. And so we appreciate everyone adding to the show. Thank you all so very, very much. And that brings us to the end of the show. So we want to just remind you again, Friday, we're going to remind you on Thursday. We have another episode coming Thursday. But Friday night, 8:45, live on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Star Wars Newsnet videos. We are doing a watch party of Solo: A Star Wars Story, 8:45 East. So you'll put up on Disney Plus Solo. We'll have a counter, so if you show up late, you'll know where to go exactly on your Disney Plus app of Solo, and then hang out with us on YouTube, on your other devices, and be in the live chat. And if you use the super chat, you'll be able to get your comments on our commentary, which lives on the channel and also in audio. So it's gonna be a great time, and we have the pins for sale and all that stuff. We'll beat you over the head with it this week. Trust me, we're gonna promote the heck out of it. But do subscribe to our show, because not only do we have 2 episodes next week and the live stream, next month we're coming back with the Mando fan show on Friday. So we have a lot of content from the 3 of us. Like Lacey said before, we're chugging on Patreon, we're chugging on the channel, we're chugging on all the audio apps. We're putting out a lot of content. That's what we do here, and we really don't take breaks. So subscribe on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, Amazon. Now we're on Amazon Music, so follow us there.
Audible.
Everywhere you get your podcasts, and of course YouTube. Subscribe here as well. StarWarsNewsNet.com for all of your Star Wars news. Teespring.com/stores/Resistance Broadcast for all of your merch, like Make Solo 2 happen. If you want to wait, you're going to get 10% off on Friday if you want to pick your stuff up then. And then, of course, the pins for sale as well, starting on Friday in limited supply. You guys can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey and Star Wars Newsnet. James?
Twitter and Instagram at Meyer Trunks.
Lacey?
You can find me obsessed with the spider baby head at Lacey Gillerin.
And the hooded character.
Lacey Gillerin on Twitter and Instagram. # missed opportunities.
Lacey, how much would you pay for a miniature of that?
I don't know. Depends what it looked like. Depends what it was made of. How big it was.
$100?
I just said it depends on the materials. Depends on how big it is.
What was it? What if it was like a hot toy, but it was like a little bit more expensive hot toy?
Like $250 hot toy.
Okay, if they sold exactly what they had in that behind the scenes shot, which is like probably what, 1.5 feet, 2 feet by like 1 foot high with like legit like spider guy on top, oracle on top.
Yeah.
It's probably like $200-300. I put that thing behind me. That's all you'd see. I wouldn't even be on camera anymore.
What would you get rid of that's behind you now?
I bought a Kanan Jarrus and put him behind me.
Oh, nice. What would I get rid of? I don't know. That's a lot of questions, John. It's like you got to reorganize the whole thing. You got to work around it.
All right. Fair enough.
What up, Neil?
Right.
Just send me that.
You can have it for free, but you got to get rid of your Akbar.
Ooh.
Like throw him out or just remove him from the backdrop?
No, like gone.
Oh.
Gone forever.
I wouldn't get rid of that. I really like him. I have good memories with him.
All right, so let's have the code word be Akbar stays. If you've listened and watched to the end of the show, comment or tweeted us with Akbar stays. If you want to hashtag it, but just write Akbar stays, and we'll know that you followed us to the end of the show.
Head.
I was going to, but I didn't want to.
I mean, I do talk about it all the time,
Akbar's.
so you wouldn't be able to delineate when I said it. But.
Yeah, it's true. All right, so we hope you dug the show. Thanks for stopping by the base. We're going to close it up now, but we're going to be back with you on Thursday morning, where we're going to dive more into the Mando trailer in terms of Star Wars trailers and trying to see if we notice any patterns and what are they really doing with these trailers? What are they trying to do to our minds with these trailers? So enjoy your weeks, and we'll see you Thursday morning right here on the Resistance broadcast. We'll see you around, kids.